gather here this afternoon pretty much as family. We may not have blood ties to Frank or to Flo or to Florence or to Chubby, however you call her, but there are ties of affection. There are ties of relationship in many ways. And so as we gather together this afternoon in memory of Frank, let us remember that it is the ties of friendship and the ties of affection that knit us together. And in fact, they make life worth living. And they don't unravel at the time of death. They continue. And it's at those times when we get together and say, remember when, that we realize, maybe unconsciously, that there were connections and we were tied together. And it was good that we were a part of each other's lives. And so, as we gather together this afternoon, let us remember a little bit about Frank. And if there's anything to remember about Frank, it's the love he had for Chubb for 60 years. And he is remembered to have said at the hospital that she was the best thing that ever happened to him, to which when I heard, I said, amen. One of the things that we have come to realize and appreciate about Frank's life was his love for the sea. First of all, he was in the Navy, and that may have begun his relationship to the sea. But as we know, as we have talked, as we waited for his body to be brought to the cemetery, Frank's love for the sea continued right up until today, when his son and his wife drove his body around Todd's Point. For Todd's Point was his church, as it were, his place of coming to be at peace. And I was thinking about Frank's life yesterday, and the thought occurred to me that to be comfortable in a place like Todd's Point, where you just walk and feel at peace and communion with the sea and the area adjacent to the sea, you have to be at peace with yourself. If you're in turmoil, then the last thing you want to do is to walk in a place of quiet, in a place of peace. And as I have come to know Frank over the years, I always found him, personally speaking now, as that person who seemed to be okay with himself and the world around him. His life, in many ways related to Chubb, was a challenge, because Chubb was part of the DeLucas of DeLuca Drive, and life wasn't always quiet on DeLuca Drive. In fact, as I used to bring communion regularly to Larry's mother across the street from Frank and Flo, Carmela was bound to come bounding in to the front door with the mail and say hi, drop the mail on the table, and go charging across the street to Flo's house. And we all know the number of years that Flo looked after her and cared for her. And Frank was a part of that scene in the good times and in the hard times, and as well as the time and the effort that Flo put into caring for Rose. Now, we're not here today to honor Flo, but we have to remember that Frank was a part of that relationship, and he was there for his wife, and he was there for the DeLuca woman in the good times and in the hard times. And that's something I think that we should acknowledge. It wasn't always easy to be married to Flo with Carmela flying around from one room to another, but he was there for her and for Flo. And for that, I think we should remember him and honor him. there was a very nice bond between father and son. And I think we all know that and recognize that. They were able to walk together at times and share a relationship. And they didn't necessarily have to talk to each other, they could just be with each other. But they knew they were there for each other, and they knew they were a part of each other's lives. As Flo knew Frank was a part of her life in her care of her sisters as she went through her life. There was always a sadness in saying goodbye. But this sadness that we may have today, and as we pause to remember Frank, should help us take a look at our own lives and see how we're doing. Sometimes relationships are down and out annoying. Sometimes friendships are down and out annoying. Sometimes we'd rather not have somebody call us, or sometimes we'd rather not have to go visit someone. And I can remember that even in my own family. And so it might be good for us today just to take a minute or two, perhaps as we drive from the cemetery, to ask ourselves how well we're doing. And particularly at this time, when in the last 2 weeks we heard over the radio constantly, check in on the elderly lady next door, check in on the woman upstairs in the time of the storm, check in on so-and-so to see how they're doing without heat or electricity and if they have sufficient food. It's kind of been a time of remembering relationships and remembering people. And as we remember Frank as a person who had a wonderful relationship with his wife and a wonderful relationship with his son, and supported his wife in the many endeavors that she got herself into, let us be sure that we are that kind of person, and that the ties of affection that we have for people, even when they can be annoying, do not get broken. And so, Lord God, as we pause to remember Frank, we remember the blessings that came to him in his life. We remember the blessings that came to others through his life. All these blessings are signs to us of his goodness and of your goodness to us through him. And as we remember the relationship he had with people and the peace he had within himself, help us to be people of relationship, help us to be people of peace, so that one day we may join together with Frank and all those who have gone before us to you and be one with eternal living in heaven. And we ask all of this in the name of Jesus, who is the Lord forever and ever. Amen. And before we close this part of the funeral, we each have people we know well who are buried in the cemetery, people who are important to us who are buried here at the cemetery. And so let us say one Our Father and one Hail Mary in memory of those folks whom we remember. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. May they rest in peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Peter,